Howdy guys, and in this video we're going to be looking at some of the things I do and some of the considerations I take when filming with my drone in order to make my shots look more cinematic. Now to start off this video, I want to say I'm not a professional. I'm merely a hobbyist that has been flying drones for a few years and wants to explain my thought process and thinking as I film in order to make my shots look a little better. I've learned a lot over the years and I'm excited to share what I have learned. So without further ado, let's jump right into it with some of the things I do in order to make my footage look more cinematic. The very first thing I want to talk about, and arguably what I think is the most important factor to take into consideration when filming, is having a purpose to your shot. Now you might be asking yourself, well, what do you mean have a purpose? And what I mean by this is just do something with your footage other than just film a mountain, or film a tree, or film a beach. Have kind of a story develop, have your drone footage go to the music in a way that kind of tells a story. If you're filming a person, put that person in the center of the shot at all times with them doing various stuff. Don't just have your footage all over the place, just looking at a mountain or looking at a tree. Because this does get boring, and so just having a purpose to your footage will make it look a lot more professional, a lot more polished, and a lot more fluid. Personally, some of the ways I put this purpose into my footage is, say I were filming a beach, and before you do that nice grandiose shot at 300-400 feet or whatever it is, where you can see the entire beach, the entire landscape, build up to this by maybe doing a shot of you ascending, or maybe do a shot of you flying out of the trees to the beach. By kind of adding a storyline and a purpose to your footage, it'll just make it look a lot more polished, as I mentioned, and it'll kind of tell a story to the viewer, which will make it look a lot better. The next thing I always keep in mind is slow down your footage, and what I mean by this is physically fly your drone at a slower speed. Flying at a slower speed allows the viewer to capture more of what's going in at a shot at one time. And what I mean is, imagine you are filming, again, a beach. If you zoom down that beach at 40 miles per hour, 30 miles per hour, versus 15 miles per hour, you're going to have half the time to take in the surroundings, look at what you're actually filming, than if you were flying slower. Also, another thing to keep in mind, it's always easier to speed up your footage than slow it down. Do keep in mind if you're filming something like a car or there's moving objects in the background, setting your footage to double the speed, the cars will look like they're going twice as fast. So if you're filming a highway, suddenly those cars are going to be going 120 miles per hour. But if you're filming something stationary and there's no moving cues in the shot, if you film it slow, you have that freedom to speed it up to whatever speed you want. So always slow down your footage, allow the viewer to picture and capture more of what's going on, and I think you'll be impressed with how your footage looks. There are a few exceptions to this slow down rule, and that is if you, of course, are filming a moving object. As you can see here, I was filming some kayakers, or if you're filming something like a car, motorcycle, or something that has wheels that is going fast, of course, keep up with them the best you can. Next, don't yaw your footage. And what I mean by this is fly your drone in a straight line. If you're unfamiliar with the axis of yaw, it's the left to right movement of the drone without it actually rolling left or right, and so you can see here on the screen, that's what yaw is. But anyways, yawing your footage in the middle of it will make it look unprofessional, unfluid, and just bad. So you can see here, this footage of the lake, I just went straight ahead, didn't yaw it, looks great. Well, here, now this is a little bit too extreme, but I was flying forward, I was yawing all over the place, acting like, hey, I want to see this, hey, I want to see that. That doesn't look good, so just keep your shots going straight. Don't yaw the aircraft unless you have to, and if you do have to yaw it, we'll talk about how you can make that look great right now. If you find yourself filming something like a building and you know you need to yaw, practice getting smooth with it. You can see here, if done correctly, the shot looks great. It looks like you meant to do it, which you did, and overall the shot looks fantastic. However, looking here, rushing the footage, and again, that goes back to the point of slow down. So either flying too fast and trying to yaw the best you can, it's not going to look good, your motion are going to be erratic, and it's just going to look all over the place and like you have no idea what you're doing. So to finalize on the don't yaw point, it's never that you can't yaw, it's just when you do yaw, pay attention to what you're doing, try to make it fluid and slow it down, and that goes back to our first point of the slower you fly, the more time you're going to have to react, the smoother your movements can be, and the more time the viewer is going to have to absorb your whole shot. Next, we have color correction and locking your exposure. I personally always film in manual camera settings. I always like to color correct my footage. I have an editing software that allows me to do so, but color correcting your footage allows you to put your own creative spool on it. If you're filming at sunset and want to have your footage look a little warmer, you can add some warmth to it in the color correction. If you're filming in the snow and want your footage to look a little cooler, you can cool down the shot in your color correction. But filming in DCinelike and being able to color correct your video will allow a lot more creative freedom and will make your shots look more like you, a little more unique, and the way to stick out is to be unique. And talking about locking exposure, if you're not familiar with exposure, it is the process of how much light is brought into the camera's lens. If you have your exposure on auto, it will adjust to bring in an equal amount of light. Whether it's super bright outside, it'll bring in less light, or if it's very dark outside, it'll bring in as much light as possible. By locking your exposure, you can dictate this, and if you're flying from bright to dark to bright, as you can see here with this gazebo, it's not going to suddenly get super bright on you and then kind of readjust to dark as you go outside, and then so on and so forth. So locking your exposure will just make your footage look better and you seem more professional. And the last point I want to talk about is filming during golden hour. Now, I'm sure basically everyone is familiar with golden hour. It's the hour after sunrise or the hour before sunset. But golden hour allows beautiful sun rays, like a nice warm orange glow over the horizon. It just will always make cheap footage look more expensive. For lack of better terms, of course. Golden hour also allows a lot more creative freedom. Say you want to film the sunset and you want to have the horizon darkened while your drone focuses on the beautiful sun going under the horizon. You can do that. Or say you want to face away from the sun and have the whole landscape look orange. You can do that as well. Or say you even want to get really fancy and try to have a lens flare come across your camera just right, creating this beautiful looking footage that almost looks edited. You can do that as well. Golden hour just adds a lot of creative freedoms and will make any drone footage just look next level. And yeah, those are the things I've learned over the years of flying my drones just to make my footage look a little bit better, a little bit more unique, and a little bit more like me. To recap at point number 1, and what is the most important point of this whole video, is have a purpose. Don't just film a barren landscape and like, what do I want to do with my footage? Try to have some thought in what you're filming, and it'll just make it like a story and a lot more enjoyable to watch. At point number 2, we have physically slow down the drone. The slower you fly, the more it's going to allow the viewer to enjoy your footage, but don't fly at like 1 mile per hour. No one likes that. At point number 3, we have don't yaw unnecessarily. If you're going to yaw the drone, have a purpose with it and do it smoothly. Point number 4, we have try to color correct if your editing software allows it and if you can, and lock your exposure to avoid the unnecessary shifts from dark to light in your footage. And lastly, we have filming at golden hour. Golden hour will just make any footage look better. It's going to be beautiful, and it allows a lot of creative freedoms in however you position the sun. To end this video, I'm just going to do a few minutes of some of my favorite drone footage that I've captured over the years that I've been filming. So if you want to see those, stick around. If not, I appreciate you guys for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this video, a dislike if you didn't, and let me know in the comments down below what you thought and how I can improve for future videos. I'd like to thank you guys all for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks.